But Rishi, you know, you are a university man, you're a researcher.
Yes.
But you don't necessarily speak the language of academia all the time.
No, absolutely
not. At all. Sometimes not even.
It's probably boring, you know.
And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about with my next guest, Dr. Camille Nakhid, Associate Professor, Auckland University of Technology, as well as the conference chair of the Caribbean Research Methodologies Conference happening this week. And you've brought with you Kara Beckford of the University of Auckland, and you're a PhD student. But what's really interesting is that you are of British Jamaican, but I'm going to say it differently. Your dad is Jamaican, living in the UK, yep. And your mom is of Maori.
Yes,
hey,
that's right.
Maori indigenous peoples of New Zealand, and that's where your research takes you. Good morning and welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yes, and you know, once you hear university, academia, you think, oh my gosh, I can never understand what these people are talking about. But that's exactly what this conference is about, isn't it, Doctor?
Camille, yes, it is. We're trying to make sharing knowledge accessible to everyone. And the way we gather knowledge, the way we learn about people, we want to decolonize what's actually taking place and to use our own Caribbean ways of knowing,
yes.
which give us an authentic voice.
Yes, and you might be picking up a bit of a Trini accent there, and that's because you're from Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah. Born and bred Trini
living and working in New Zealand, and this is exactly where your research has taken you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to go to a video that succinctly talks about, okay, we'll come back to the video a little later on, but in terms of making the language of academia accessible to more people and looking at research within the context of the Caribbean setting. I called it Lyman and Old Talk as research. Tell me more about that.
Yes, well, what usually happens in research in the Caribbean are Eurocentric Western ways of what they call collecting data. And through interviews, there's a lot of it is quantitative work. We have surveys. And I'm thinking, well, in Aotearoa, New Zealand, in the Pacific, they have their own indigenous local ways of finding out and sharing knowledge. Talanoa, for even African oral tradition of storytelling from Africa. And we in the Caribbean, very literate society, so many universities, and yet we have not embraced or acknowledged our own ways of sharing knowledge, such as Lyman and Old Talk.
Yeah.
And in that space, which is familiar and natural to us, it's the best way to find out what someone really means, what someone is truly authentic, what someone is really trying to say, and
yes.
give us an accurate voice
yes.
of what our issues are.
So historically, if I'm sitting liming, you know, I'm just down by the parlor shop liming, I am picking up information about what's happening, let's say, with
yes.
my research.
Yes.
Historically, that would not have been acceptable to be included in your research. Is that what you're saying?
No,
yeah.
because we still default to words like interviews, surveys,
right.
Using words like
focus
that.
Groups
yes,
and
focus
all of that,
groups.
yes.
That are not part of
yeah.
who we are.
Yeah.
Because if you want to talk with someone, the best way you have a line,
yeah.
you all talk.
Right.
What more honest way of telling people what's going on about the social issues
yeah.
in Trinidad? And it's also a way of removing the hegemony that surrounds.
That's a big word.
It's a way of removing the hierarchies,
right.
you know,
yeah.
the levels that divides those in academia
yeah.
from us, because
yeah.
without the people we speak to who share our knowledge, we would know nothing.
Yeah.
We would not have doctorates without people who shared knowledge with us. And so it's taking away that aura of elitism, because
yeah.
as you know, the Caribbean is a very elitist
yes.
country. We're
yes.
very colorist,
yes.
sexist, homophobic,
yeah.
and it's removing all of those colonial legacies that we so
and sort
hold
of
on to.
Neutralizing
yes,
the playing field. I want to go to Kara. Welcome to Trinidad and Tobago, first of all. And you have a very interesting area of study as a PhD student. You're looking at the Maori indigenous people. Tell us more about that.
Well, I'm looking at well-being and how that affects women of colour, and I'm using Māori methodologies
yes.
and ways of being, similar to what Camille was talking about around decolonising how we understand research and how we do research, and legitimising and validating our own ways of doing things.
Yes.
And that, you know, we have similar things. We share food, we talk, we share information, and we acknowledge that our ancestors have been researching for a long time and been learning about the world
yes.
for a long time, and we don't need to use Eurocentric methods all the time.
Yeah. So it's the same type of research, but done in different parts of the world, really. So we're looking at former colonies and the way that we interact with each other and legitimizing the way that we learn, essentially.
Yes.
I got it. So this is going to necessarily filter down into the work that is done. I know research that is done at university level filters all the way down into secondary school, primary school, and the way everyone learns. Tell us very quickly about the Caribbean Research Methodologies Conference.
Well, because of the research we're doing through Lyman and Old Talk and finding out all through the Caribbean, Lyman and Old Talk is unique to Trinidad, but Jamaica, Puerto Rico, Cuba, they all have their own similar ways of sharing knowledge. And so we thought, why not look at what the type of research that's being done in the Caribbean, and why not introduce, or because it's here and it's nothing that's new. So why not have a space for people to let us know what are the methodologies that they are using and explore and develop our own ways, because we are not introducing anything new. We are just saying it's there, let's use it. Yes.
And of course, you are one of the presenters at the conference. And it's taking place?
It's at the University of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, and it's taking place on the 12th and the 13th.
Today and tomorrow.
And people, the members of the public are invited. So I can just come and sit, you know, because I have a left brain, right brain. You know, a lot of people see me in entertainment and all that, but I have a little,
come sit, engage, happening
talk, as well.
Everything.
All right, then. I know that you have a video that really clarifies all of this very succinctly. Let's take a look at that now.
My research is about the process of constructing the cultural identity of the Caribbean community in New Zealand. When you're a part of such a small migrant community, you have to be very active about your cultural identity. As the research methodology, I am using practices that are indigenous to the Caribbean, built around sharing space, sharing storage, sharing food in a very open way.
Anna's research is about decolonizing our minds. I think that's very important because it affirms Caribbean research methodologies, something that's never really been looked at before.
My hope is that if I can contribute something, it will be finding ways of being more connected and more empowered together as Caribbean people.
Very interesting there, and remember the conference is happening today and tomorrow at the University of the West Indies. One of the questions I wanted to raise with you is that issue of acceptance. So when CXC came in, it was, is this as good as the international qualification O levels and so on? What about acceptance of research done in this particular manner?
Yes, this would be our greatest challenge for academia, to accept and to embrace and to affirm what is our layman, what is our grassroots cultural knowledge.
Yes.
And that is our biggest challenge.
Yes, okay. Well, I want to thank you, ladies, both for coming. I know you're going against the traffic up to the university. You don't even know what the traffic is like. Have you had roti and doubles and bacon shark and nothing?
Tonight.
Okay, that's a promise. Camille, what are you doing?
I know. I'm getting the sun and the coconut, so I'm good.
Having it all, Rishi. This falls right on your lap,
Exactly, and I'm listening and I'm thinking, liming and research, that sounds real fun. It's not just you sitting down and beating the books and reading.
What is your research on at the university?
Well, my lecturer and I, we are still working it out. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do. Good morning to Dr. Michael Jeffers. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Talk to him about this level of this type of research.
Yeah.
Maybe he might be at the conference this morning.
He might be.
You never
But
know.
Lisa, it is that time where we have to go to our Nescafe feel-good moment.